us, so good. I think we're good. You ready, Dave? Let's go and get this kicked off. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to everybody on YouTube, Payson, all you guys here. Good to see you. So we'll get this going. It is Tuesday, August 25th, 10 o'clock straight up, and we'll start with the pledge. Michael, will you lead us in the pledge? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Michael. We don't have any prayer this morning. Okay. Moving on to regular agenda items. 2A, information, discussion, action to approve AIA Contract A-133-2009, Exhibit A, GMP Amendment to Lovin Construction Contractors in the amount of $2,563,532.36. Includes pre-construction of $39,860.12 and construction, which is $2,523,672.24. Standard form of agreement between owner and construction manager as constructor to build the new Globe Animal Care and Control Building and site improvements in Globe. Homer? Michael.
My God.
Yes, Michael. Bill,
I knew Homer was here somewhere.
We switched up on you, Chairman.
Good morning, Michael. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. So yeah, it's going to be a tag team today between many of the people who helped us out with this project to get to this point. A pandemic was not going to stop me from coming in front of the board to present this to you. John Castaneda, myself, and other people have been working on this project for the past 7 years. So it all began, it's interesting, it all began about 1926 where there was a deed signed agreement between the city of Globe and Gila County for a piece of property out at the cemetery, jointly owned. So that happened in 1926, and then in 1970, 71, 72, an animal shelter was built. And that's when Gila County Animal Control moved into that facility. So it's approximately about 50 years old at this particular time. And then back in 2013, I was approached by the City of Globe manager at that time, requesting that we possibly take a look at moving the animal shelter because they were running out of plot space for their cemetery. So at that time, I approached then County Manager Don McDaniel and the current board, and they gave me their permission to move forward and take a look at possibly finding a new location for the animal shelter. So back in 2014, I performed a work session with the then current board, and they gave me permission to look into locations for a new animal shelter. Some of the issues that I saw with our current animal shelter are too numerous to mention right here. But we did not have enough space for the animals. We didn't have enough exercise space. We didn't have a quarantine area. We didn't even have workspace for the staff. We have one office in the entire building, and our staff had to do all of their work right at the front counter. We did not have enough counter space for clients to come in and purchase their rabies tags and everything else like that. And our bathroom is certainly not compliant with any kind of building code up in this particular time. So there's a lot of issues, and over the last 7 years we've had structural issues, termites, those kinds of things. So so there's quite a few issues with that. And then if you remember back on February 28th, I came in front of the new board and presented where we were at. And during that particular session, the new board told me to go out and take a look at if there's other areas where we might be able to build a new animal shelter on other pieces of land. The City of Globe and Gila County came to the one particular lot at the community center, and I don't think that was going to work out that well. And so we went back out and we took a look, and we hired, at that time we hired Line and Space out of Tucson. Homer, That's the next slide. So at that time, we hired Line in Space to come in and let us know. What we didn't know is what size of a new animal shelter we needed. So we hired some experts to come in, and they spent 2 days with our staff and did an assessment for a new animal shelter, and that came back probably about 7,500 square feet needed, and upwards of about $4 million construction, 4.1 to $4.5 million construction. So that was a high price tag. So then what we had to do is we had to put a team together to see if we can't reduce the size of the building and reduce the cost. And that's where we're at today. I'm coming in front of you just to let you know a little bit of the history. We've been working on this for the last 7 years. And right now, I'm going to turn this over to Homero to sort of go over where we're at financially with this and where it went from 7,500 square feet and 4.1 million down to what we're going to present to you today. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michael.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. I'm going to follow up on Michael. He's a great presenter and a historian to boot. Took us back into the beginning of the animal shelter history. That was interesting. I wanted to talk about the contracting that we did in the team, because when you put together a building like this, it's about a partnership. And we started off with the idea that we wanted to do this with contract manager at risk. And so we hired the architect and the contractor at the same time as we started the design. And we've been working together ever since to control cost. But more than that, cost is just one of the arms, if you will, of the teeter top. It's you need to find balance with the rest of what you're trying to do. Functionality. Is it attractive to the public? In the case of an animal shelter, does it have long-term, what's the life cycle cost? And is it going to function for the long term? So we were trying to balance many things at once, cost being one of them, and that's what the team did. And I just wanted to mention some of the names. Early on, we had a selection committee. It consisted of Scott Luzon, Steve Sanders, Bob Hickman, Michael O'Driscoll, and Mary was leading that team effort to make sure that we found the right architect and the right contractor for the job. Now, we interviewed many qualified architects, top-of-the-line architects, but we were trying to find the right one for Gila County for the animal shelter. And we selected the architecture company. And the architecture company, the folks that helped us with the project is Faye Tom, Keegan Tom, and they also had a consultant working with them that was an expert in animal shelters. His name is Michael Bernard with the Shelter Planners of America. The team from Love and Contracting, the team that we selected, the CMAR, the one that we're awarding a contract today to do the construction at a guaranteed maximum price, is led by Mike Lovin. And some of the folks that we've been dealing with the Lovin team is Tamara Modlin, Chris Harvey, and Jesse Brackenridge. And I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are some of the names that I wanted to mention. And so we have, of course, our customer, what I would call our customer, the Animal Care and Control team, and we've been working from day one, even before we became a team. Michael O'Driscoll and John Castaneda were already working on this, and they've been with us every step of the way. Every decision that's been made, they've had to nod their heads, and if we can't get them to nod their heads, then we don't do it. And so the IT team, Kelly Riggs and his entire team, have helped us, but they're going to help us even more once it's time to put in some of the IT equipment in the facility. From the facility management standpoint, the team that has some responsibility for the construction of this building, Chris Romiti, Mark Warden, Brittany Morrissey, Christina Knox, and Bob Hickman. Now, this is the second time I've mentioned Bob Hickman, and he has really been critical to getting us to this point, and he's back here. So thanks to the entire facility management team. They've really, later on you'll see they're working on a great variety of projects right now. Community development, Randy Plumer. You won't find, we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Randy. We'd be here maybe 45 days from today. He turned over the plan review in an incredible amount of time. I'm talking about days that I can count on one hand, not weeks or months, but days on one hand to review the first version. and a couple of days to review the second version. And then Jake Garrett, who did a really phenomenal job with the septic design. Actually, Jake actually designed the septic system. And working with Jake were other folks, Scott Warren, Curtis Ward, and Jim Berry were folks that contributed to that design. So those are the folks that make up this team. And every one of them was critical, and I'm sure I left off some names, but that's I wanted to start with that team. And thank you to all, not just the ones that I just mentioned, but everybody that participated in the work that we're doing. So this is a pictorial of the animal shelter. Now, it's not palatial, okay? It was never meant to be palatial. This is actually very close to what Line and Space recommended. It's 7,521 square feet. Okay, so we didn't really change the size of the building. What we changed was the cost of the building, okay? And we brought the building down to $2.8 million. That is bond money that we're going to be utilizing to pay for the construction. And it's about full functionality. For instance, we have a pressure washer in the system that, pardon me? Okay. Apologize for that. Let me take the mask off. I didn't need it in the first place up here. So it's a 7,521 square foot building, and it's going to satisfy all future needs that we may have. The number of kennels is 26. I think it's 27, I'm sorry. John Castaneda will give us an exact number in a minute. It'll be there for a long time. It's going to encourage adoption. It's a nice building, okay? It's not a building where you're going to step in and in 3 seconds say, I want to step out. We wanted to make sure that the HVAC, the way to clean the building, the way that the maintenance of the building, the durability of the kennels, the stainless steel that was used, the flooring, etc., that stays something that we can clean, looks nice, and is acceptable to people that want to wander in there and look for a pet to adopt, okay? The facility layout, I'm going to ask John Castaneda to come up here, and he will present the facility layout.
Which one's the laser?
This is forward.
In the laser?
That one right there.
Okay, good. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
Thank you. First off, I would like to say, give the whole team a big thank you for everything that they've done from the get-go to this point where we're at right now. One big key goal that we wanted to meet was functionality, and Homer has already mentioned that. I probably heard that word functionality probably 40 different times, and we just, every day it was functionality, and I think we have met that in this animal shelter here, or this animal care facility. So I'm going to start. I'm going to go over through the layout of the animal shelter. This first area here is our sally port. This is where our officers will come in and they will get ready for their day. They will drop off dogs and do everything that they need there. If you look over here to the side, there's storage area right there. That's going to house all of our dog traps. Anything that the officers need for the day, they'll be able to get that right here. And one thing with this sally port that is different from where we drop off our animals now is it's enclosed. If we have an animal, it's a vicious animal, and it gets away from us, right now it can go down to the cemetery or wherever. There's no way to enclose that animal. But right now, if it gets away from us in this new section, we'll be able to contain it and apprehend it right away and get it put back to where it needs to be. The next slide, this is going to be the intake area. This is going to be receiving and / surgery. This first room right here will the Gila County Sheriff's Office, DPS office, anybody that has access to our facility will be able to bring after-hour dogs or animals into this area and drop them off into the little kennels that are going to be set there. They'll put the paperwork on the counter in the morning. My officers will take over. If an officer, one of my officers is bringing in an animal, they will come into the receiving area, and all the dogs in this area, the dog will get its vaccinations, get its picture taken, uploaded to the system, and it would be ready for to go onto the stray hold. These kennels on this side, which it's in another section that I'm going to talk about, but that's the stray hold kennels, and I'll get to that here shortly. Part of the functionality is the animals come in through here and they go straight to a stray hold. They don't have to go through and go by and walk through healthy animals that have already been on their stray hold and they're not sick or anything like that. So they're on the opposite side of the building. And then in this area right here towards the back is our surgery center. We're going to be able to hopefully bring in a vet that's going to come in and do our low-cost spay and neuter. If they have their own mobile unit, they will be able to park that unit here, and they'll be able to plug in and use the electricity and everything to run their big units. And if they want to utilize our surgery center, they will more than likely be able to do that in that section right here. Moving on to the next slide. This is our administration portion. This right there is the conference room. It's a conference room / break room. Right now we don't have a break room. If somebody needs to take a lunch, they have to leave, and there's no place to sit down and have lunch or whatever. In this area, we're going to use it as a conference room for our animal control hearings, staff meetings, and we'll be able to Zoom up to Payson for our animal control hearings there. So we'll have the northern part and the southern part here, and we'll be able to communicate by Zoom or whatever we're using at that point in time. The next section down here is for my officers. This is where they have their quarantine, or not their quarantine. This is where they have their workspaces. They'll come in, they'll be able to plug in their computers, do their reports, finish their reports, make follow-up phone calls, and they can do all that right here in private. It's not out in the front, out where everybody can hear what's going on, and it's privately. Right behind that is the supervisor's office. That's where I will be. If anybody has anything or they need to pass reports on to me, it's right there. It's very handy. And then moving out to the front, this is the front doors right here. So when people come in, this is going to be the front counter. You come in, if you want to report a dog bite or whatever, you do it right here at this front counter. You will be met by a receptionist, and you can take care of all your buying your tags or whatever right there at the front. And then there's a little thing right here on the side where it's for counseling. If you want to finish the adoption application or whatever, somebody wants to do a dog bite report and in private, they can do it back in that little corner. This is the front lobby and waiting area. The next area is the cat area. In the cat area, this section, this section right here is where we're going to house it. We have 10 cat kennels. We have section for quarantine cats and healthy cats. And then in this little area right here, this is where the community room is, and this is what we call the catio. Cats will be able to come in and out, and if they're not aggressive or anything like that, and they've passed their aggression test, and they'll be able to go outside. It's fully enclosed. It's going to be with chain link so the cats can't escape, but they'll have access to inside and outside and be able to play outside during the day. These two little rooms right here are get acquainted rooms. If you want to come in and you adopt a cat and you want to see how it is and play with it, you can do that in this room. One thing right now with the current shelter is we don't have a space to do a meet and greet with a cat. That takes place out in the dog kennels, and cats are stressed out, and they're just really it's a horrible thing for these cats. But now we could take care of all the cats out front, away from the dogs, and that was one of the big ticket items that we wanted to do. And then this little area right here is bathrooms. It's going to be public bathrooms. It's on the outside right here. So moving on, this is the dog area. Again, this is the stray hold. Once the animals come out here, they go in the stray hold. They're held for 72 hours. During that 72 hours, they will go through temperament testing, aggression testing to make for sure they meet criteria for adoption. After the 72-hour hold, and they do meet the aggression test, then they go on to this side for adoption. These are for all of our adopted animals over here. So none of these healthy animals will be around any kind of sick animals or anything like that. This little room right here is a grooming room. It's going to have a little place where you can walk the dog up into a bathtub, give it a bath, groom it. I'm trying to get somebody to come in, volunteer-wise, and come and do all of our grooming and clipping and stuff like that to get the animals ready for their adoption. And then over here on this back part, this is our isolation area. This is where if any of these animals do come in and they start looking sick, they go on isolation, and it's got its own circulation of air, so it's not vented into any other part of the shelter or other animals. And we do have a puppy area right in here, so if a mother comes in with a litter of puppies, we could put the mother and her litter in there, so it's not all stressed out with everybody else, and she has a quiet place back there. This area right here in the front, this is the get acquainted room for adoptions. If you come in and you want to adopt a dog and you want to get acquainted with it, you can go to this room right here, close the door, be with the dog, play with it. We've had students from the school come and read to animals, and that would be a good place for them to come in, go in there and read to an animal. And a lot of kids like to do that. We've had that happen a lot of times. And then this other room right here is a little bit of storage also. And then if you want, when we adopt an animal, if you want to go to a yard, off back over here, there's a play yard where you could take an animal, you can throw the ball around with it, you can see how it gets along with your dog. And it's just another meet and greet exercise yard for that. And then this area right here is our kitchen area. This is where we, clean all the dishes and sanitize them. Storage, food storage. A refrigerator. I'm not sure if a refrigerator will be in there for all the dog stuff if we need to put dog animals or whatever, dog food in there, but that would be in there. And then on the back side is the laundry room. In this portion right now, we have stackable washer and dryer. In the wintertime, we will do laundry until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's probably about 10 loads of laundry. So we're going to get the commercial washer and dryers like they use at the sheriff's office, and we'll be able to probably do 2 loads of laundry and be done and not have to, it'll free up time for my staff to do other things than sit there and do laundry and fold laundry all day. Moving on, this room right here, I know the team will probably laugh about this, but one big item that I wanted in our shelter was a pressure wash system. Every time we had a meeting, I'm like, hey, I want a pressure wash system. We need a pressure wash system. It helps with disease control. And every day it was disease or pressure wash. And they probably got tired of me saying it, but I said it. And we did get the pressure wash system into the budget. So this is where all that mechanical stuff is going to be: HVAC, water heater, pressure wash system. That's in that area right there. And then the last one is just the storage area right here on the kennel area, or the sally port that I already talked about. There will be a gate right here where everybody will come in through here. Staff parking will be back here behind the lock gate. And I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them.
Good job.
Thank you.
Looks really good. Tommy, do you have any questions for John?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but I sure do appreciate the look at what we're going to do, what we're dealing with now, and to take a look at this almost seems unbelievable. I've been on the conversation even longer than Michael O'Driscoll, and I'm just so glad that we are to this stage in this project. We have needed to be here for years. And I want to thank everybody that's had a hand in getting us here, whether known and unknown. And that's just so far it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tommy. Tim?
Oh, I can see the thought that went into this. Seemed like a lifetime ago I was an animal control officer at that old building. Then I became a general contractor and was working on the settling and all the falling apart parts. in that old building and how sweet it is to be on a board of supervisors that's helping you guys with this, and to see the thought that went into the layout and the facility for the animals and the way it's been done. Hats off to you guys, lots and lots of work. And it's a pleasure to be able to be here and be able to see this going through for our community, because it's been needed for lots and lots and lots of years.
Yep.
Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
James, did you have anything you want to say?
Mr. Chairman, appreciation to everybody that's been involved in this. And we haven't mentioned Homer, Mr. Vela, that he has been kind of the coordinator that's pulled it all together. And I so much appreciate Mr. Vela and all of his talents and capabilities. Something that he has done for his career is developing these types of things and putting them together. Express appreciation to you as a board for seeing the vision of these projects and how they will benefit the citizens, the people of Gila County, and taking care of animals that we have needed to do for so long. So I thank you for seeing that vision as a board of supervisors and being able to carry it forward to come to this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's been a part of this project. I know we gave you some kind of tight parameters to work with as far as money on this building, and you guys did an awesome job. So it really looks good. I look forward to seeing it in place and getting it done. So thank you, Homer, and everybody else that was involved. I know there's quite a team and everything, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We do have a couple more slides we'd like to show.
Sure.
Okay. The next slide is kind of like talks about value engineering. When I joined AT&T, we used to call it cost reduction, but value engineering is a better term. It means you're reducing the cost without losing any functionality. You're removing everything that doesn't add value, and you're leaving everything that adds value. And you can see that we walked from 4.1 million, 4.5 million, down to $2,795,580. And that was a team effort. And so listening on right now to our conversation is our architect, the architecture company, and Lovin Construction. And I wanted to, you can see the numbers here. I don't have to share any more of this chart with you. It speaks about us getting to our goal, okay, is what it does. And to me, this concept that we're talking about of the animal care and control facility, I look at it at a dimension just one above that. And that is that we put together a team, and I'm part of that team, yes, but we put together an entire team that managed to find their way to the goal the right way. So I'd like to just offer that the entire design, by the way, was done during the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. Every one of our meetings was Zoom. We didn't have a one-person meeting to design this facility. That's another amazing thing that actually happened. And I yearned so much for those meetings, but we didn't have them. It wasn't right for us to have them. And today, that's the reason that the architect and Lovin Company are not here, the architecture company, I'm sorry, are not here. They wanted to be here. I asked them, let's try doing it Zoom, Facebook, and over the phone. So the architecture company is there. Can I invite them to say a few things?
Sure, Homer.
Okay. The architecture company, you wanted to share some thoughts with us?
Well, this is Fay Tom, and I just want to say that we really appreciate the opportunity of working with Gila. I think this is one of the smoothest projects that we've been in, and that's really is saying a lot because we've done a lot of animal shelters. So working with Homer and the team was just great. If you have any questions with regards to the site, I know we didn't talk too much about that. We can answer some of those, or any questions with regards to any special requirements in the facility itself. We can have Michael Barnard, our animal specialist, respond to that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I don't
Thank
think
you.
we do have, but Tommy, do you have any questions for the architects?
Mr. Chair, no, I don't. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Tim?
I don't know if this is for the architect or not, but the placement of this is going to be out at the fairgrounds, correct?
Supervisor Humphrey, Chairman, that is correct.
Okay, and I just had one question on the septic and the design of the septic. Is that going to be a usable water, or is that just going to be a leach system septic tank water?
Jake Garrett and I had a discussion. We did everything we could to use that as gray water, but the dogs have transmittable diseases, and we weren't able to convince the ADEQ team that we could use that water as gray water. At this point in time, even though we wanted to do that at the beginning of the design, we were not able to accomplish that.
Okay, just questions. Thank you.
I'm good, Homer.
Okay, so I'd like to move to the next slide. It talks about local contractors, and one of the requirements that the Lovin Company had, Lovin Incorporated had, was to make sure that we did everything we could to go out and reach to our local contractors. And actually, it has a good story. 16 local contractors responded to the information that we put out. 6 of them provided bids. Of the 6 that provided bids, 5 of them were selected for a total of $655,000. And I would like to, at this point, invite Lovin to share whatever thoughts they had on local contractors and the work that they did to make sure that they had information available to them. So, Lovin, if you're on, would you like to share some thoughts?
Yes, we're here. This is Chris Harvey with Lovin Contracting. We also have Tammy Modglin in the room, and Mr. Lovin's in the room too. So we'd also like to thank everybody for this opportunity. It's been a great experience up to date, and I agree with the architecture company. It's been running very smooth. So we appreciate that, and that's, it just makes for a great experience for everyone. The only other items I can add on this slide is we started right off the bat in our estimating, calling people, trying to get them involved as soon as we got a contract for the pre-construction. So we were already looking right off the bat and making phone calls and just trying to get a hold of people as much as possible. That Blue Book One team on plan room postings, that's our main source for soliciting subcontractor bids. It's a program or a platform that has thousands of contractors in the state of Arizona, and that's where we go and do most of our work. But we also, in conjunction with the owner, solicited at the Globe Miami Times on their Facebook, and then we did the Arizona Silver Belt, and we also did the Payson Roundup. What we didn't have noted on here, we also held a pre-construction meeting on July 14th and invited about 40 of the local contractors to come out and just meet with us. And if they had any questions, we could talk. The drawings are already done. So that we also threw out there just to get people involved and give them an opportunity if they have any questions to come meet us and stuff like that. So other than that, that's all I have to offer on that slide.
Chris, thank you. So anyway, having five winners out of 6, I think that's a phenomenal thing, and I consider that effort well worth it, and that's what we're supposed to do. And I believe we did a fair job on that as well. The next slide talks about a construction schedule, and we're not going to go over the construction schedule other than to say we're going to start in mid-September, and we're going to complete the facility by mid-June of next year. And with that, I come to our last slide. Our last slide shows a picture of Gila. That's the mascot for the Animal Care and Control. And in approving the board item that you have in front of you, the guaranteed maximum price of $2,563,532.36, that includes the pre-construction. In approving that, Gila will be moving on up to the east side to a new home. Okay. So with that, we'll take questions. I've got a whole team here that can help me answer.
Thank you, Homer. Tommy, got anything you want to ask these folks?
No questions, Mr. Chair. It's an awful lot of information, and it looks so professional and team worthy. Homer, I thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy. Tim?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody that put so much work and effort into this, and being considerate of the local contractors, and to work together as we have and be able to work together. And if I had a crystal ball, with that being out at the fairgrounds, how sweet it would be to see in the future, be able to work with some of the DOC people in helping us with the animals, which would help their process and recovery as well. So I think it's a great thing going forward, and maybe perhaps working with the DOCs would be great for the animals and them as well. So thank you all very, very, very much.
Thank you.
I'm good, Homer. As long as Mary has lots of money for us, we're good. She gives a thumbs up, so I guess we're okay. And yeah, I'm anxious to get started and anxious to see it built. So with that, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, since Supervisor Humphrey has been involved with this conversation longer than all of us, if he'd like to do the honors in making this motion.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I move to approve AIA Contract A-133-2009, Exhibit A, GMP Amendment to Love & Construction Contractors in the amount of $2,563,532.36, and standard form of agreement between owner and contractor manager as contractor to build the new the Globe Animal Care and Control Building and site improvements in Globe.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to second that.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations, guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if we can do this safely with COVID and everything, looking to put some sort of event that we can officially kick off the construction of this site. So sometime mid-September, we're looking to have an event kick off for the construction.
So I think, Michael, I seen an email from you.
I know that they're the health department.
So I talked to Sherry, has it on your calendar. It's probably, we're planning next Tuesday, September 1st, to have an event out there just to kick off the whole construction project. So my team is working to put it together COVID friendly. So we're going to have social distancing. We're going to have tents out there, bottled water. We're going to have hand sanitizers. We're going to make sure that everybody's safe out there. But the official invite will go out today, and I sent out a hold the date yesterday. So I think we're all set for that already, James.
So next week after the board meeting.
It'll be at 1 o'clock, September 1st.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So I think we're good, James.
And Mr.
Yeah, go ahead,
and
Tommy.
Mr. Chair, you won't see me, but I'm absolutely there in spirit.
Oh, you bet, Tommy. You bet. So, good deal. All right, moving on to 2B. Information discussion regarding potential public safety and public health uses of the Arizona Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security CARES Act funding allegations. Mary, are you doing it?
Mr. Chairman, if I could introduce, 2 months ago, we had an initial conversation on the Arizona CARES money, and said, I asked at that time to give us a couple of months so we could get a better feel for, what the costs are going to be, what's going to happen to our revenues. So Mary has gathered a lot of information, put it together so that you can, as a board, be able to see where we are at, and then potentially start to think of how we go forward with this Arizona CARES. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, James. Go ahead, Mary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, member supervisors. So you never know who's behind the mask, right? Maybe you get to do that. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide just is a reminder of how much Gila County did receive in the Arizona CARES Act. It was $2,960,977, and we did get the money, so it is in our accounts. Next slide. And so this is just going back over, I think the next couple slides, Dave, you can advance it. Keep one more. Okay. The narrative was just when we put together the grant application, the different functions that we said we would do with that funding, because it did require a narrative. And in a nutshell, it was public safety, the sheriff's office, dispatch, and health and emergency management, their operations. So this next slide is really just an illustration. One, please go back, just one. Quick. Just the numbers in red. I took the net amounts in state shared revenue and VLT. And if you can see, for April and May, we did have a decline in revenue. And we know that there is volatility in the revenue for this coming year, potentially the next year. So we're tracking that. So this chart just shows that we're keeping an eye on it. We actually reduced the revenue in those categories accordingly in our budget. So we're keeping a really good eye on what's coming in.
So, Mary, right now with what you're seeing here, that keeps us in line with what you guys programmed in our budget, kind of close.
Mr. Chairman, correct.
Okay.
But we knew that we were going to have some shortfalls, so we want to make sure that we are tracking it and we're reporting it to you. So we can go to the next slide.
Mr. Chairman? On that, if you noticed on the state shared sales tax for June, there was it showed a significant increase. Wanted to let you know that was a one-time deal, and it is not necessarily indicative of what the trends are for this. It was some one-time money, some corrections and some things that the Department of Revenue had to do. So it shows an increase, but that is not necessarily the trend that we have. The trend is still more what we have of 99,000, 52,000 in the red.
Okay, so when are we going to know about July and August then? We still a month or so out from seeing those?
July, we should have those numbers any day now.
We should see them this week, I would think.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a recap of basically where we're at today and what we've experienced as far as cost to the county. So in wages, those wages are what I mentioned, health and emergency management, sheriff's office, sheriff's dispatch. Lost revenue, that was on the previous slide. The guest vocational rehab services, that's a department that's run by Melissa Buzan's group, Community Services, and that's so they can help persons with disabilities. They have an office that manages that. $72,317 is what we have lost so far because we don't get paid unless those folks are actually on site with our workers. And projecting that forward, it'll be another $72,317 that we're paying folks. They're skilled folks and they're very hard to come by. If we were to say, call us when COVID's over, we're going to lose some very skilled people. And so we're going to be trying to figure out how to maximize what they do for the county while COVID is still in full bloom. So we'll be working with Melissa's department to see if there is something that we can do with those folks so we can reduce that $72,000 going forward. COVID admin leave, the way that we have social distance folks is they come to the county, they do their work. If we're having alternate shifts, some folks are home, but they're still collecting a check. Right now, that's $284,000 is what that's cost the county. Public assistance, early on, DEMA had opened up a public assistance grant that we're tracking costs for like PPE, things that they consider allowable for public assistance. And they require us to have a match to that. And so far with what we've spent, our match is almost $84,000. And then non-reimbursable cost with that public assistance grants, we're at about $50,000. So if you look at the total, we're over like $3.5 million, and our Arizona CARES Act money doesn't even cover that. So just so you're aware that we're kind of a little lopsided.
So we're about 600,000 in the hole right now.
Correct. Next slide. Oh, next slide. That was the end of my presentation. So that was pretty much the recap of where we're at today.
So like the COVID admin leave costs, you know, when we're splitting shifts, we're doing all this, keep people scattered out. Is there any projection on when maybe we can start pulling that back to normal, or is there a targeted amount of positivity rate that we're working with to bring this together? Well, I mean, what's going to pull us back there?
Mr. Chairman and Mr. O'Driscoll can comment, but they've been able to, through the Department of Health Services, pinpoint things down and have some grading of how an area is doing, and particularly for the schools and the schools to be able to open up, have in-class students come. As far as I know, and I don't know if we've changed, but Gila County Globe and Payson were both entirely in 3 categories in the red, meaning that the schools can't open, highly recommended not to open, and that there is still a high community spread, a high risk of just the COVID going through the community. So, Michael, Mr. Chairman, it's all right, have Michael comment on that?
Sure. Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So, in the state of Arizona, the number of cases, hospitalizations, deaths, everything is on a decline. So we're seeing a positive trend downward. In Gila County, we get the zip code data, which we share with the school superintendents each Wednesday. And so as of last Wednesday, Globe and Payson was still in the high risk category, and more of the rural areas were in the green category, which is minimal risk, Young, Pine Strawberry. Hayden Winkleman currently is in the red, but in particular, just the 2 large population centers in Gila County are still above 5% community spread for positivity tests. But we are on the decline, and it's a good trend to have. So I'm hoping in the next couple weeks we'll be able to get below the 5%.
So once we get below the 5%, then you're saying we can start pulling people back and get rid of the split shifts and start working our way back to somewhat normal?
Mr. Chairman, I've been pondering that myself in the last few weeks, that perhaps we're getting close to the time that we can start to go back to full shift, to full staffing of all of our departments. So I think we're getting close within the next few weeks or couple months. Not quite there yet, as Mr. O'Driscoll has commented. So is it going to be based on numbers, James, or just going to be based on your gut feeling where we're at? I'm following our health director.
We follow the data, sir. We'll follow the data, absolutely.
Okay.
Because that tells us what's happening in the communities, and the zip code data in particular tells us it allows us to see to treat each community differently, which they are, because there's the rural areas are more spread out than Payson and Globe and things like that. So we follow the data very closely. And Mr. Chairman, if you looked at the state as a whole, there was in the early on, March, April, May, towards the end of May, the governor lifted the stay-at-home orders, and everything just went crazy. People were out, and just we had a huge outbreak. Those numbers have come down, as far as I've seen, to about where they were before the stay-at-home order was lifted. And so that's what's telling me that, yeah, we're probably getting pretty close that we can fully staff all of our departments because of that downward trend as a state. Then specifically want to look at what we have in the county
that we can follow safety as much as we can, keep our employees safe.
Sure. No, I'm not asking to push you into opening this back up. I'm just asking what's the plan, you know, what are we kind of looking for out there, whatever. And even then, there still may be some folks that can't come back for a while. I don't know, but.
Our health director, Gila County Health Director, Mr. O'Driscoll, is top notch. He's on top of it, knows what he's doing, and I rely on him tremendously through all these emergencies and through the COVID and all of the plagues that have been inflicting us over the past year. So I'm appreciative of Mr. O'Driscoll very much.
So the sooner you can get us through 2020, the better we all are, right?
I'd much forget 2020, that's for sure.
Okay, so that makes sense. That's kind of what I thought we were looking at. See that rate
Yeah.
come down further.
The trend is in a positive direction for all counties. And
Right.
so all the county health officers are having discussions with each other and with the state as far as what it's going to look like in the near future to get people back into their offices and some of the precautions. There's already guidelines set forth by CDC and the state health department as far as workplaces, if you're going to bring people back, what to do to be safe about it. The challenge here is when do we do it, because we're moving into flu season. And so flu season, is it the flu? Is it COVID people are getting sick with?
Right.
So it's going to be a challenge to determine that. So that's why we're kicking up the testing in across the state to determine what really is going on.
Good. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, you bet, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mary, I had a question for you on the reimbursables up there, the 50,000. What are those?
I won't touch anything. Mr. Chairman, members, supervisors, so things that we went out and purchased to help people work remotely, if they were working on COVID, if they were doing contact tracing, that kind of thing, so if we bought a laptop, that would be reimbursable. But the fact that we sent folks home and worked from home remotely, they would not cover that with the public assistance grant because they said they were not working directly on COVID-related items.
I was curious. I mean, we didn't get enough out of the grant to cover our costs as it is, so.
No, but even volunteers in past emergencies where they had public assistance grants, we were able to use volunteer hours to offset the costs of our match. And so we asked that, can we use some of the volunteers that man the COVID stations up in Payson and down here? We were told no. So we're pushing back a little bit on some of that, trying to get them to allow some of the volunteer costs.
So do we have any more of these CARES Act packages coming along in the future that you guys know of, or any more grant money like that? I hadn't heard any, so I just wondering if you guys had.
Not in respect to us getting a chunk of money. We have gotten grants, and we are tracking grants that are COVID specific. So the Health and Emergency Management Group has gotten additional monies to support their COVID activities. So that helps, but that means that we're bringing in additional people to do contact tracing and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Go ahead, James.
Mr. Chairman, another kudos to our health director that he did get $1.6 million in, I don't know what specifically, but it's related to COVID and several other grants. So Mr. O'Driscoll has gotten a lot of money directly related to the county covering this. So
Yes,
he's done a fabulous job of reaching out and getting that money.
absolutely. And I really appreciate that. That's going to help. So thank you, Mary.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to point out on this that we're looking at costs as of 8/21/2020. So there's still 4 months in what the COVID CARES, Arizona CARES was for up to December 31st. So we've got $3.5 million worth of expenses so far as of last Friday. And we'll double that. So we're going to have expenses related to COVID of about $7 million, I would expect at a minimum. So that's, need to note that's, we've got a little less than 3 million, but that our expenses just by December 31st are probably going to be in the neighborhood of $7 million. Is that right, Mary?
Yeah.
So what are we going to do to cover it?
Part of what was covered in that COVID Act was salary that we did budget. So Sheriff's Office, Emergency Management, and Dispatch. So that kind of helped fund that so we could manage through some of these other things that were not funded. So it's not all additional money that we're going to
Right.
be out, but it's still, we've got more activity in the jail now because of COVID. We've got more activity in health and emergency management because of COVID. So we do have additional PPE, that kind of thing. I do know that the Sheriff's Office is actually looking for grants to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they've got a grant for PPE and stuff that they've gone after.
Right.
But it's, there's a big chunk of that isn't, between our lost wages for people being at home, not working.
Mm-hmm.
That's a chunk. Lost revenue, that really is real money that we're not getting. So, that's why we budgeted conservatively this year, to make sure that we would hang on to what we could and manage through the hard times coming.
And I really appreciate you guys doing that and looking ahead on that. It's just the lost revenue part of it is something I've been worrying about. And, and there's no way of really knowing how hard that's going to hit us. I mean, we're far from over this. So what you're saying, James, is we're looking at more like a $7 million deal. So somewhere along the way between the grant monies, Mary, and what we've saved here and there with what you've budgeted for, we'll make up part of that back.
We believe so.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, the reason to bring this back is to give you an update, first of all, and then to have a discussion, a view of the board of if there's any directions that you want us as a county, as the finance department, to take as staff, recommendations to staff of where we go from here. We can use this just as to cover our shortage of revenues, to cover the expenses, the hard expenses we have, and go forward in that way. If there's something in particular that you want to appropriate monies for, then we would need to come back to you as a board to actually say we want to spend these dollars in whatever way it would be.
I'll roll Tommy and Tim in here in just a minute. But first, it goes back to our conversations we had earlier with like the fire departments. They were hounding us pretty hard needing some of that money. And we elected to give it just a little bit of time, like you said, take a look at it. So, having this up here really puts it in perspective to me. And the fact that some of these fire departments that were really asking for some of this money are inside city limits of towns that have received CARES Act money. So, and I have no idea what they're doing with their money. I know of some requests that I've been a part of, and they seem to be holding on to their money just really tight. So, Tommy, do you have something you want to say about this?
Mr. Chair, I very much appreciate just being kept abreast of where we are on all sides of this. Mary, I do appreciate you and your bunch keeping the numbers coming at us so that we have some perspective. I also want to thank Michael. I absolutely trust him and his group on the data conversation, keeping us in line with the data. If anything, Mr. Chair, in a big picture, not just for us but for the state, I worry that we will meet all these numbers and then we'll go party and be right back where we are now. I hope that if we err as a county at least to start with, we err on the side of conservative. That we're conservative about, we continue to have a conservative approach to how we go back to work, how we come back together, and so forth, and on and on. That it has, I think it has stood us well to this point, and I'd like to see us keep that as a guide. And that's it, Mr. Chair, for right now.
So, Tommy, if I may ask you a question just straight up, since we're in a work session, we can do this. What would you like to see our CARES Act money, that $2.9 million, spent on? Covering our costs or sharing it with some of these other people?
If that's all the money we're going to get, and I still have some hope that we will get, that the Congress will see fit to help support the local governments, then I would use it for us. If we are going to get more, then I'd be for sharing. But, Mr. Chair, I'd like to see us take care of us at this stage of the game.
Thank you, Tommy. Tim?
Oh, I think it's a difficult situation either way you go. I think throw a rock in a pond and you see the ripples, they go forever. So I'm with Tommy. I hope at some point in time they'll see more funds available for the problems that we've been having and are going to continue to have. Just one thing caught my attention earlier. Mary, you said the people at home getting a check. You meant the people working from home getting a check?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Humphrey, the folks that are not doing work but are sent home because they're socially distancing the office, they are being paid. They're being paid COVID admin leave. Okay. And so there is COVID funding for that? The 2.96977.
Okay. Yeah, it's a difficult deal, and every day we're faced with different decisions to make. So I think I'm very grateful to staff and Mary for you guys, the decisions that you are making. I do fully believe that you have our best interest at heart when you're totaling the numbers and bringing them to us. I appreciate your efforts very much.
So this is a tough one. I think you guys all know me well enough to know that I am pretty tight on dollars. But in the same sense, I like to help people. But first and foremost, we have to help our people in this. And to me, with this on the wall, when I'm looking at $600,000 already in the hole, not to mention what's going to come in the next 2 or 3 months, whatever it is. I agree with Tommy on this one, that I think we ought to be just sticking with what we've got right now and seeing where we're going to be in a few months. And that's hard to say, because I know enough people out there and have been in enough discussions in the last 2 or 3 weeks especially to know that there's a lot of people out there hurting for money right now. And the CARES Act funding always comes up in those discussions. So,
Mr. Chairman, there's an observation, and this happens to be the guest vocab rehab services. Part of the conversation with that team in the state was they were looking to see if there was some kind of relief for that. And their answer was, well, you guys got COVID money. So when you asked about the funding for the sheriff's office, the dispatch, and emergency management, yes, that helps with those salaries, but that's $72,000 that they said, no, you got COVID money. So use that to cover that.
right.
So it's those kind of things in other offices that aren't going to give us any kind of relief because we got COVID money.
Yeah, which isn't enough to cover what we've got
Right.
already. And so You know, I've been speaking a lot to Michael here lately on other issues too, and you know, it just kind of comes back to me as a supervisor and us as a board that we've been sitting in our chairs, kind of waiting to see what the state's going to do, the money that's going to come through, what's coming from the feds, how all this is going to get broke down. Not that we could probably change the way things are going to be, but I think it's about high time for us as a county to stand up and say enough's enough. You know, quit kind of just nickel and diming us. Are you going to help us or are you not? And not only us, but our people. You know, we're still dealing with the bars, the spas, other things of that nature. You know, thank God there was a little bit of common sense on the schools and the benchmarks, but for whatever reason, the common sense dried up about that time. So, but maybe from us as a board, it's high time we start shooting out some letters and saying, hey, what's the deal? We're tired of this. So, just food for thought, James.
I think that's a great recommendation from you and from the board to continue to stress. There's been a lapse here in time. Congress they come and go on their vacations and all that and fail to act. So we need to continue to push, and we will.
And I'd go kind of one step further too, and from Patty's standpoint in D.C., we need to start pushing on whoever we need to in D.C. to say, hey, you know, like I said, we may not make a difference, but it'll make me feel a whole lot better knowing that we raised enough hell that maybe something will change.
Yes, sir.
Tim, anything you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
me too.
Thank you, Tommy. So, Mary, thank you, ladies, for all you're doing on tracking all this. I know it's a big job and not enough money to go around, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I have a great team.
Yeah, you do.
Outside of finance, too. Finance for sure, but outside of finance, yes.
We have a good team in the county right
Yes.
now, all across the board, so we're good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James, did you have anything more on this?
Just wanted to say we're not. There may be changes. There may be things that we want to consider going forward. It's not like we're saying right at this point that no, we're not going to do this, not going to do that. It's a very fluid, very flexible situation, and by not, the money is staying where it's at. We're holding on to it. We're not divvying it up or do anything like that. The money is still with us, and as we go forward, as a board decides that, yeah, we do need to do this, we do need to do that, because there's all kinds of people, like you're saying, businesses and other things that are affected by this, that we should support as a county, and we'll endeavor to do that. But that the money's still there, and will come to you for allocation if it's other than just the expenses that we're covering and the revenue.
That sounds good, James. Tim, Tommy, you guys have anything else you want to chime in on that? Otherwise, we'll go to the next one. I'm good. You're good? Tommy, you good?
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. So moving on to 2C, information discussion regarding a list of potential projects to be included in the Gila County fiscal year 2021 capital investment plan. Marin.
Mr. Chairman,
Morning, Mr. Chair.
if I could just lead into this as well, is that we passed the budget a few weeks ago and wanted to go through the detail of what was in the budget as far as budgeted capital. We have to, again, be careful because of our revenues and those types of things, and wanted to give you as a board a conversation of, well, we want to focus on this or that. So we've looked to put together 5-year capital plans for all of our different types of expenditures, and be able to present that to you in detail, and then have that discussion of, are we correct on the focus that you as a board have, or do we need to modify our focus a little bit anyway?
Thank you, James. Go ahead, Marin.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members, supervisors. This morning we have for you a couple different people presenting so that we make sure we have the right people giving you the right information. And I have the privilege of presenting these general slides. So these are the general countywide Fund Code 1007 for our capital projects. We sort of put them in order of, the way we hear people tell us what they need. The flood control mitigation dollar amount really needed to be at the top there. We heard both from the supervisors and from departments that when you look at the budget book, you only see the $239,000 that's in the budget for the flood control department. This $300,000 is separate from that. And then we have the other items that are there for our ongoing capital improvement plan, including, $100,000 for software, the $30,000 for Cisco there, and the third bullet up from the bottom, that is for the countywide phone system, so that all of our departments have consistent and well-working electronic infrastructure for that. The same thing with the $120,000 for computers and laptops. We worked closely with Kelly Riggs and Jackie Sanders to make sure that every department is, accounted for, in that our folks in IT have a really good software system that they track the age and implementation of all the devices countywide, so that they make sure that we don't have a catastrophic failure of something. And they're doing a really good job of making sure that we stick with what we're supposed to. And I can't just call them up and say, hey, Kelly, I want a, $3,000 computer. And then we have our vehicle replacement plan that Homer and Shannon and several other people, including Glenn Farnham, have worked really hard on to make sure that we are replacing things both with common sense and with a conservative approach, so that our fleet is well cared for, and that we're good stewards of that.
So, Marin, if I can interject
Sure.
a minute, the flood control mitigation,
Yes.
the 300,000 is in addition to the 250 we have.
Yes, so this 300,000 is for actual projects, right? So this is not the salaries of the folks working in the flood control department. This is so we can move dirt or the things that we need to do to make sure that we safeguard our constituents and their property.
So the 250 is programmed for wages and such as that then?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
So but this was, we knew that was a big concern, so we wanted to make sure. Right now, it's in the record. You can see it. Anybody at any time in the future can go and look on our website under the clerk of the board and see this presentation and know that, that concern was addressed.
Thank you.
Okay. We also have, these are our special series funds. So these are general fund and Sheriff's Department and County Attorney fund line items. We keep a $400,000 line item reserve for election equipment, just in case. We don't ever hope to spend it, but just in case something were to happen, especially in an election year, that's there. And then we have a line item for uncapitalized. So those are equipment projects that are under the $5,000 threshold for capitalization, but may come up as being needed. And that includes $200,000 for machinery and equipment. And then there's $30,000 for clean and lean in there. And that was the line item where we found capacity when the sandbagging machine was needed after the burn scar, and we saw that rain was coming. That's where that money came from. And then in the Sheriff's Department, there are 3 special series funds, Justice Enhancement, Special Projects, and Commissary Fund. Those 3 have some capital line items in them. Those are requested by the department. And then that 3544 line item is for the County Attorney Cost of Prosecution Fund, and they've earmarked $7,000 for some new furniture in that. And with that, if you don't have any questions about those slides, I will hand it over to Homer and to Steve Sanders for their expertise.
Tommy, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Chair, I don't.
Tim?
Appreciate the information.
Yeah, I have no questions.
The only question that I would have on some of this is if let's say the flood mitigation part of it, if there's money not being spent in some of these other pots, can it be shifted around later?
Mr. Chairman, all of this money is set aside in capital for capital projects. Every single one of these, before that money is spent, we come to the Board of Supervisors to give us approval to spend capital dollars for specific line items. While we have placeholders for IT equipment or whatever it might be, as we go through the year, we do have flexibility that this is what is approved, but you as a board have all the financial authority of how the dollars are spent.
Okay.
And so we can come to you and say, well, we really need this, and you as a board can have that discussion as to what the priorities are as we go through the year. So, yes, total flexibility.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Marion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to add on that election equipment. There was a little bit more of a backstory to that the recorder was looking at a piece of equipment to come into this general election cycle this year. It was going to be expensive for $500,000, so we put that at $400,000 in. Wanted to leave it for this year in case we had something with the general election, but we did find a less expensive path, and they do have very good ballot counting equipment, and so we feel like we're in good shape. But that $400,000 for election equipment can probably go away, and I do not expect well, we're not going to spend that on election equipment.
That's good. We may need it somewhere else, James.
Yeah.
Thank you. Homer?
Good morning again, Chairman and Board. I'm going to continue with Code Fund 1007, focusing on facilities. And I'm going to start with the bond buildings that we're building with bond money. And I'll start with the Globe Jail roof and HVAC. We have spent some money in 2020, and we're planning to spend $870,000 in fiscal year 21. On the chart, you see 570 because we're working with the sheriffs to use their criminal justice enhancement fund, $300,000 of that to satisfy the requirement, the $870,000 that you approved a couple of weeks ago for the roof and the HVAC units. If you remember, that was 2,600 square foot, 2,600 square foot of roof and replacing evaporative units with HVAC units. The new Payson complex, we've got $5,229,000 that we can spend fiscal year 21. It is an 11,000 square foot facility. The footage has gone up a little bit. 2 Sally ports. It's a parking area east and west of Call Court. Again, this is a fully functional building, allowing for the court, the Superior Court, Board of Supervisors, and offices for many elected officials, including the assessor and recorder, who would have the public would come to them at that building. The next one is the animal shelter that we talked about. We've already spent some money. So a number that you see up here is $2,628,000 that we would be spending in fiscal year 21 for a total of $2,820,000. And the reason that that's a little bit higher than than the $2,800,000 that we've been talking about is because we're going to spend about $25,000 doing our own inspections, concrete, weld, pavement, soil, inspections that we need to perform based on code requirements. So that's something that we're doing, has nothing to do with the contractor, has nothing to do with the architect. It's a requirement for the owner to perform. Payson Sheriff's Office remodel, we're setting aside $100,000 of that bond money to get the design done this year, starting in October. And we're setting money aside next year to get started on the construction. Those are the bond totals. One of the things that you don't see up on the chart is an expenditure that's already taken place, the probation building, approximately $300,000. And we also did a adjustment for the Criminal Justice Enhancement Fund, where we moved some monies to the Criminal Justice Enhancement Fund from bond money. The total of the two is about $654,000. So if you add that to the numbers that you see here, They total $9,935,000 of total bond money. That's what we have available for the buildings that you see above the green font. Okay, that's you're familiar with these projects. They're moving. We plan to bring to you the final design of the Payson complex in the month of September for your review. Then we get into other miscellaneous facilities projects. Payson County Attorney, carpet. This is in Payson. Carpet, $5,000. Payson County Attorney, a kitchen remodel, $10,000. The county attorney has offered to fund these, and when they do, then we wouldn't be using these capital dollars that you see here. But we don't have that firm yet, so we left it in the capital budget. Globe Jail Laundry and Remodel, we're setting aside $300,000 for 2022. Once the sheriff moves to the old detention center, the detention center that we fixed up around the corner here, we will convert the admin area to the new laundry and booking. That's a long-term plan that we have. Money's not in this year's budget, but in next year's budget. The Globe Fairground training facility for the sheriff, $25,000. We'd like to move with that project this coming year. Parking lot asphalt repair, we set aside $50,000. We probably need to do that every year. We did spend some monies last year. We spent a little under $10,000, but there's a lot more work for us to do. And if we're not able to get inmates, we need to find a way for contractors to do it. That just needs to be something we do every year. Michelson building remodel. There's actually $325,000 for the Michelson building. $150 from the county, $150 from the mine, and $25,000 from Capstone. From the $150 is from Freeport. For a total of $325,000. We have received some of those funds already. So what we're saying is we're going to try to move on the Michelson building as quickly as we can. Currently, we're still working on the truss design and the engineering effort to tell us whether the trusses need to be replaced or can we repair them, and what we need to do with the roof. Then we need to remodel the first floor for some offices, move some walls, remodel some of the bathrooms. And in the event that we need to do something with the roof, we probably have to demo whatever's in the way to take care of the roof. So that's work that needs to be done. Target completion probably 2021, early 2021 for that one. That's an ambitious project that we've got going. Security upgrades. We set aside $100,000, and we don't have $100,000 of projects today, but what we do have is people like Jonathan Barrett coming up to us and saying, hey, I've got a grant here. Can you help match the grant? And the most recent one was $48,000, and it was a 50-50 grant, but it's stuff that we needed to do for the court, some lockup devices that we needed to install. So we agreed to do that, and so this would allow us to pay for grant matches, as well as security upgrades, putting in card readers where we need card readers, and changing the security various buildings. If you've been in the 610, 608 building, you'll notice that there's been significant changes to the entry at both ends of the building, making the building a lot more secure, especially for the employees, where the people have to wait at a counter. That they don't just automatically walk in and visit with whomever they want to like they used to. That's the kind of work we would be doing with security upgrades. The Napa Payson Health Building, a lot of work has been done. The team is actually doing a lot of the work, framing, electrical, finished plumbing, doors, that kind of activity. But on that building, we've actually replaced the floor. We put in a concrete floor. We've replaced the roof in its entirety. We've replaced the HVAC. And basically, we're putting in a building the way the health department wants it. Nothing got in the way. The floor layout is exactly what the health department wanted. It's going to be a building that'll last a long time. And there's plenty of room there, so it'll satisfy the needs of the health department for many years to come. And so we're spending a total of $394,000 on that building, but the health department has gone out and got us, I think, $120,000 grant, something in that order of magnitude. that Michael O'Driscoll and his team have provided. So we've knocked the cost of that building down to what we originally targeted, like in the $250,000 range. We want to replace a culvert between the sheriff's building and the health building in Payson, $10,000 for that culvert. Payson Courthouse remodel, we're setting aside $250,000 for that project. The main idea here is to provide security to the clerk of the court, who today is it works right next to the security team, and we're trying to provide some distance between them and the secure entrance. We're also trying to allow for an 8-person jury that would take place there, not to have to drag that 8-person jury anywhere else, but to actually do it in that same building. And of course, a security remodel. So we set aside $250,000 for that, and we're working on that. The 610-608, when we finish the building, the new Payson Community Complex, we need to find a home for community services, and perhaps they would be working in the 608, 610 building. That's not a final plan today, but we're setting aside money not this year but next year, because we still need to work on the new Payson complex. So we're setting aside $55,000, and I'm talking about this year and some of next year to kind of give you a vision, a longer-term vision than just one budget cycle. Okay, and I apologize for rambling from one year to the next. Payson County Complex furniture, we're setting aside $300,000 for that. That's something that we had not put in the budget originally for that complex. There is a lot of furniture that it is hard to visualize, whether it's pews or seats or whatever, to fill up that board chamber and the court and when it functions as a courtroom. There's a lot of furniture required. Plus, we have many offices in there, new offices that probably, to do justice to the building, they ought to have similar furniture, and it ought to blend and complement the building, the furniture. So we set aside $300,000. Originally, we were thinking $200,000. The architect believed that was not enough, so we put in $300,000. But we're going to pinch the pennies on that one and make sure we get our money's worth, and hopefully can bring that significantly down. HVAC replacement units. Almost every day when I walk in to visit Chris Remedy, he's on the phone with some member of his team talking about an HVAC unit that isn't working, especially right now during the summertime. And we need to replace some of those units every year. We don't have the ability to do them all at once, but we ought to start doing something with that now. $500,000 for the Payson Regional Drainage that you've already approved. The design is underway. I just got some emails this morning telling me to look at the design and give them an opinion. I need to do that later today. But we need to, if we're going to move on that, we need to move quickly so that we can start the construction of that building in November of this year.
So, Homer, on that, is Payson still partnering with us?
Absolutely. We would not do that without partnering, and the position that we're taking with them is our limit is $500,000. They want more. I'm going to ask them that they need to contribute the rest. And if we can't make something work at $500,000, well, I'll come back to the board and tell you that story at that time.
You could probably save your time, Homer.
Pardon me?
You could probably save your time.
No, I need to undo. We would need to undo the IGA if that were the event. But hopefully we can find a way to put in a regional drainage in there under $1 million.
Because that particular project, Homer, from what talking to you earlier, is pretty tough project, isn't it?
That will be a tough project, especially with 7-foot culverts. Now, if we could reduce the culvert down to 5 feet, and that's the hydrology that the engineers had sent to me today to review. And if they can show us that we can get a similar, because a lot of the transport of fluids through a culvert have to do with distance, have to do with friction, have to do with head pressure, have to do with outlet control. And a lot of those things may not change, whether you're using a 5-foot culvert or a 7-foot culvert. It might be the same flow that we can generate. And a 5-foot culvert would significantly simplify the complexity of that project.
Thanks, Homer.
Okay, so other project that we're going to be working, not this year, but next year, is the Globe Jail Grinder. The sewer system coming out of the jail gets plugged up frequently. People want anything that goes into the jail cell. If it doesn't come out, it's because it got flushed, whether it's a uniform, a blanket, whatever. They find those kind of things in the sewer, plugging it up, and we'd like to put a grinder in there, but that's a project for next year. We also want to do the paving for the jail, everything inside the perimeter fence, we'd like to pave. And that's also a 2022 project. And then we've added other things that are linked to facilities. The fairgrounds, I know it says Fairgrounds Road, but it should just say fairgrounds, infrastructure, facilities, machine and equipment. We've set aside $300,000 for that, and Jackie's got a whole variety of projects that she'd like to do. Broadband, we've set aside $2 million. Not that we're ready to give money to Sparklight. One of the things that I keep saying is we need to open the competition, not strengthen the monopoly. But that money is there as a placeholder for grants. If we need to match, if we were to get a $20 million grant to expand broadband significantly in the county, that would be available for matching grants. More than anything else, that's why that money is there. And again, it's not money that I can spend just because it's here. If I were to spend $1 of that broadband money, I'd have to come to the board and get your approval before. And the same goes for every single item on here. Okay, it's a placeholder. And there is a lot of grant money available, and we just need to be ready if we were to do something with broadband.
So, you ready for a question, Homer?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to our $10 million in bond money, are we still on track with our projects and all that? Are we going to hit that right on $10 million or less?
For which one?
We're going to stay within our $10 million budget on our projects, Homer, on the bond money?
We are doing well on a lot of them. The sheriff office remodel, we need to make sure that the design allows us to build it for the monies that are available. We're pinching pennies on the Payson complex. Again, you're balancing a number of things. It represents the county, that building, the new building that we're putting up. There's functionality, and we're constantly working on the cost reduction for that building. Every time we have one of those Zoom meetings, it's about the value engineering, and we'll be very close.
James?
Mr. Chairman, with Mr. Vela at the helm of coordinating these projects, he's doing everything to make sure that we are at that 9.9 million, 99, and so we will we'll be at that, up to that limit, and not go over.
Well, that sounds good. I know you guys are working hard, and I appreciate all that too, and pulling these projects down. It's good. It's, it all goes back to what we were talking with Mary about earlier, and in our future in the next year or two might be a little tough. So thank you for everything you're doing.
And we're aware of that. If you want to talk about pinching pennies, I've got people up here that can vouch for me. Okay? In any project that I get involved in, I behave as if it was my business. Mm-hmm. Okay? And my whole life, I've been pinching pennies. I talked about cost reduction. I started with AT&T in 1978, and I would get a bonus based on my cost reduction, what I could reduce costs and show the account that actually happened. So I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, I know you are.
And we're going to do our very best.
I'm just checking. So I appreciate that. So one question for you, James, that I have right now is, when you look at that $10 million figure there at the grand total and stuff and all those projects up through there, some of those may not get spent, obviously, for one reason or another. So there may be some money saved back on some of those, is the way I would look at it. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
The one thing, the outlier that has really been difficult for us for Homero and team to come across was the facility in Payson is proving more expensive than we had initially planned. So we're moving some dollars around, but our priority in all the spending is essentially the animal facility. Mm-hmm. We're going to go ahead and start that. We got approval today. The community center in Payson, the multi-purpose facility, is our second priority. That is going to work on a groundbreaking in 3 months, sometime in the fall. So that is coming close too. We're going through with, as Homer said, the architect and working on the guaranteed maximum price at this point. We're waiting for the health department to finish up, which I was going to ask Michael when we're going to have a grand opening for the health building in Payson. Went through that the other day, and the interior is painted, the outside's painted. Got all the walls, and they've hung the ceiling with the grids, so it's really getting close. Having to work on the electrical and some things like that. But after those two big things, the jail down here, we've got that going in process, and then the other smaller ones will come across those in the following years.
That sounds good. You know, we've come a long ways. And so by this fall, we'll be a lot further down the road too. Tommy, do you have anything you want to chime in and ask Homer or James?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I really want to thank Homer for the diligence that he does on these projects. I think that what we're faced with, as we always are, but what he does is allow it to be far more clear that we're dealing with issues and projects that are either urgent or important or both. And it lets us constantly judge what we're doing and what we could be doing and what we need to do next. And I just very much appreciate that. And I also appreciate that we aren't just stopped in our tracks because of COVID, that we're dealing with that. It's costing us money. We're doing everything we can to mitigate that, but it hasn't stopped us in our progress to the things that are important to this county, and some of them very urgently important. And Mr. Chair, along with that, I was also thinking I want to add to my answer to you all ago of do we take care of ourselves or do we take care of everybody else? I think I want to add to that we go case by case on the everybody else conversation. That we take care of us, that we don't just look and say we're not going to take care of anybody else but us. I think we need to look at the needs on a case-by-case basis, just like we're doing here. And so far, Mr. Chair, that's all my comments for right now.
Thanks, Tommy. Tim?
A couple things. One, I'd like to get through this list because I see on a Gila County Community College projects, because I've had to call with several people from the college, say, well, you took the money away from the college. Well, we didn't. It's still on our budget line. It's right there. And it's just in a grant form where they have to. It's in a grant form where they have to put a cost to it, because now that we keep up with our audits, we can't just give them money for their general fund. It has to be out in an audit form. So anyway, that's one pet peeve that I wanted to finish. But the other thing is it's great to look at these improvements, and yeah, it's a lot of money. But what I like about this board and the teams that we put together, we're working on projects, and we're putting a new roof, we're putting new units, we're getting a facility in Payson to where they can have courts. We're looking at an animal shelter. We're doing things that's going to be good for the constituents 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Not sitting here as a board trying to prove a patch on a roof or what we're going to do with an IGA with the City of Globe or City of Payson for animal control. I very much appreciate these meetings and where we're at right now and where we're started, because what we're approving, what we're looking at, and the money in this budget is to better everything 10 years down the road, not to piecemeal. And Homero, I thank you very much for all your input, and we keep saying teams and teams, and you know, together everybody achieves more. So by creating these teams and working forward, and I love the momentum that we have, because we're looking down the road. We're looking at fixing things before they're broke. And if we got to fix things, we're fixing things more permanent instead of a patch. And So that's just kind of my overview of all this and my appreciation of staff and the way that we're looking at things going forward. So that's my 2 cents.
Go ahead, Homer.
Mr. Chairman, one more item. There is a reserve at the bottom that'll allow us to do puts and takes and things like that. But the closing comment for me on this is that the team is involved. The facility management team is involved in 2/3 of these projects doing some work. Folks from Globe are traveling to Payson, and one day some people from Payson may come down to Globe. But they are actively engaged, doing a lot of work to do some of these essential things. Some of these things needed to have been done years past. And so we have some money to do them now. We do them. We won't have to do that roof for another 20, 30 years, maybe 40 years. But some of these things need to be done. It is a time of intense activity for the facility management team. I don't think they've ever run across trying to do $8 million worth of projects in the same year where they play a big role in some of these projects. So my thanks to them. I'd like to, at this time, turn it over to Steve. And Steve's going to talk about public works and roads. And just before I hand it over to Steve, I just want to mention a couple of things. The VLT, the HERF, and the 1 cent sales tax that we get to fund road maintenance and road reconstruction. The total that we budgeted last year, that we forecasted, was $7,017,000. At the end of that year, from the July to the June time period for last year, we received $7,215,000, about a 3% increase in total for all three of them. And they're all similar. All of them, actually, we received a little bit more than what we forecasted we would get. And the point that I'm trying to make is that, and going into next year, we decided that we were going to reduce the numbers so that we were going to be conservative. We were afraid of what COVID pandemic could do to the sale of gasoline. But I think that the numbers are coming back. They're at least steady state. I'm not going to say that they're better. They appear to be steady state, okay, or from what we've seen so far. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Steve, and I'll do a little cleanup here. I always forget.
Thank you, Homer. So with that increase in HERF dollars, we can get some more roads going, right?
Steve will answer that. Let me dry it off. Better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Homer.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. How does this work? Here's some capital expenditures that the Public Works put in individual to departments. The top one, for the HERF, snow plows with cinder spreaders. We're looking at probably like 2-ton trucks. They can, wintertime, we can put spreaders in the back, snow plows on the front. When they're not being used for that, they'll pull crack seal machines, be crew trucks, things for different use. Crack seal machine, we believe we're just about to order it. That was approved. A vehicle, that's for the engineering department. The vehicle is in. We had ordered it last year with the caveat that it didn't arrive until this budget year when we had the money budgeted for it. Unspecified equipment is for the sign department. I believe it's post-hole hydraulic equipment for the post-hole driving and things like that. And then, of course, payments on some of our equipment we buy long-term on payment plans, and that's an upcoming payment on a loader. Probably on another page you'll see a payment, a scraper payment. In fact, we have to come back to the board next month or next board session because it's over $50,000, and the statute says while you can go over $50,000, you have to every year come back before the board for a renewal of the lease agreement. And then you get into some of the projects we budgeted for the next year. It's Stagecoach Road in Roosevelt, Cemetery Road in Pine, probably the third or fourth phase of the Gila Road, third phase of roads in Mesa Dale, Wallaman Road in Globe, and a Tunnel Village, a bypass. We're trying to connect Johnson Boulevard to the control road so we don't have to replace a bridge. And I have slides that will go more in depth in those. And then on some bridges, the Rim Trail Bridge, which is a county bridge in East Verde, over the East Verde up in Rim Trail. Tunnel Creek Bridge is updating the environmental assessment on that. And then the Gordon Canyon Bridge, it's ADOT's replacing it for us. Of course, we're paying, but it's through an ADOT project, and it's basically under construction right now. And then we have some sidewalks in the Central Heights area, Main Street and Golden Hill sidewalks. So, landfill has put in for a new fence at the Russell Gulch landfill for the waste tire yard. We have to secure the waste tire yard, stay in compliance with ADQ because we are a waste tire facility. Also a water truck at Buckhead Mesa, pickup truck in Globe. There's the lease purchase I was talking about, the D4, the scraper. We'll be to the board next board meeting asking for that. And then we've set $22 million aside for Forest Service purchase. Town Site Act for Buckhead Mesa, we've asked for 640 acres. Have no idea what it's going to cost, so we've set money aside. The Forest Service has told me that we may have to pay appraised value. They may waive appraisal and give it to us if it's for public use. So at this time, we have no idea. And it's out there a few years, but we're just starting to put money aside for it. And then replacing an old compressor at the Star Valley Road Yard. And then here's the individual slides that will speak to the project. Stagecoach Trail in Roosevelt. We're just finalizing the design right now on that. This road will have an inverted crown. We're going to keep the water in the road, the runoff, and then the side streets that intersect, try to bring all of them to get the water in the road and get on out to the north. Well, we'll be back before you eventually looking to acquire some property and drainage easements on private land to the north to facilitate this project. We're still in discussion on that.
So, Steve, I thought we'd already acquired that property for the drainage on this one, or was that a different one?
We acquired part. We bought a mobile home at the end of the subdivision to facilitate drainage. On beyond that, we don't have an easement. We have a partial easement from the next property owner, but we don't have a full easement to get all the way to Pinnacle Creek, and that's what this next purchase will acquire. Will get us where we can get water all the way out to Pinnacle Creek. Create a channel to facilitate the flow of the water instead of just spreading out down through the private property. And we're just wrapping up design with the consultants. We're negotiating a final price for the design of the roadway. Cemetery Road in Pine. It's a county road. County owns property in there. It's a pavement is basically gone. We don't know what we're going to do yet, whether we're going to go in and just crush existing and build over it, try to rejuvenate, lay it back in place. It's still unknown exactly what we're going to do. We just know we need to do something, and we've set money aside for improvements. We're still trying to come up with the what we can do, get the best value for our money on the road.
So on that one, Steve, when we paved that one, is there folks that live along that road going in there that'll benefit from the pavement also?
Absolutely. There's probably half a dozen, maybe more homes in there, and maybe a business or two. I'm not sure, but there may be somebody that runs a bed and breakfast or something out of there on the end. But it's a well-used road for just having a cemetery at the end of it. Gila Road. This is the last phase that will get us over the top and down into Gila. It's been probably 6 or 7 years ongoing project. Internally have done some. We've contracted some out. We've let the contractor build some. We've worked with contractor on getting it ready, having contractor pave. this last part, the intent is to have it designed and then put out to bid. But we'll finally have a good road into the Gila community. Mesa Dale, this is the third phase in Mesa Dale, just outside of Payson. Plans are complete on this. We are starting to put a bid package together to bring before you to ask you to advertise. Hopefully we have this completed before the end of the year. Wallaman Road in Globe. Now that the county has opened, or the city has opened up South Broad and extended, we need to address Wallaman Road. We went back and forth over what needs to be done. So we're looking at probably some patching, substantial patching, leveling with asphalt, and then a chip seal over it. But we're still working on that. We've just budgeted for the project. Rim Trail Bridge is in the Rim Trail subdivision. It's a one-lane bridge down a steep hill over the East Verde River. Plans are complete. We're bundling that up to put out to bid. The intent is to get it out to bid this calendar year, but not start work till next spring to give the contractor time to acquire the steel and everything that will be needed for the project, and then build the bridge next spring, early summer. This is Gordon Canyon on the Colcord Road. This is under construction right now. Hayden Building Corporation is the contractor. This was in partnership with ADOT. We supplied some money. ADOT put some money up. ADOT bid the job, and they're managing the job for us right now. It should be complete probably November.
So why is ADOT, I mean, it's good they're partnering with us, but why did they do that?
They do that on a lot of projects. You enter an IGA with them, and they will administer the project for you. We don't have the capability to administer this. We would have had to hire a third party to administer it, inspect it, oversee it. But they do that with a lot of local agencies. They offer those services all the time. We've used them on roads up Six Shooter Canyon. We've used them Fossil Creek Road in Strawberry. The bridge out by the community center, they did that for us. Getting ready to do some sidewalks that'll come up later on. Of course, you pay for it. Nothing's free.
It's not free. Okay.
But it's all part of the IGA.
All right.
Golden Hill Road sidewalk. This we had one called Main Street. They're kind of combined together. Again, it's another ADOT is administering for it. We expect to have it under construction probably early next year, working through some design issues, changing some things, but basically we'll have a sidewalk. ADOT will combine the two projects into one. We'll have sidewalks from Southwest Gas to the lights at Main Street and US 60. Have two or three more that's not on here that we're treating them as just kind of large maintenance projects. A chip seal project in Pine. It's on the north and east side of 87. We've contracted the oil and the spreader out. The county's doing the work in-house, and we're going to start that September 14th, scheduled start date of that. Should take about 2 weeks. And then next spring, we'll do the south and west side of 87 in Pine. Again, we'll do that internally, contract out the oil and the spreader. And then also in the timber region, we're looking at crushing 10,000 ton of rocks in the 4 Mile pit to surface roads in the region, and the rock crushing should start probably in the next 30, 45 days. With that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions or comments you have.
Thanks, Steve. Tommy, you have any questions for Steve?
You know, what I appreciate about what Steve just is sharing with us is that nobody got everything and everybody got something, basically, in this road. We've got so many roads that need a little extra care.
Yeah, you bet. They're all good projects for sure.
And just, and again, the ones that he's talking about, I think are the ones that at this stage of the game are important and urgent. I think that he makes real good use of the money we've got on the roads that need the attention. Steve, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you a bunch.
Thank you.
Tim?
Yeah, no, I appreciate working with you, Steve, and a lot of these projects. I know are not quick projects. Some of them are, a couple of year projects, but it's great that we're, like I said, looking that far ahead and doing things that are going to benefit people way down the road, not just for the next year. So, but we're reaching further than that. So I appreciate it very much.
Same with me, Steve. Thanks. They're all good projects.
Thank you.
Good to see. Okay. James, is there anything else on there that we need to cover? Okay. All right. So moving on. Call to the public. Cheryl, do you have anybody in Payson?
No, sir.
Anybody on YouTube? No? We're good? Okay. Nobody here that I know of. Updates. James, do you have any updates for us? Or Jackie?
Okay. So I'll lead off. I didn't warn James ahead of time, but for those who aren't monitoring their email or their emergency alert, we just put go orders out for another piece of our community. From ADOT to Winters Ranch, east side of Highway 60, are on go orders. And there wasn't enough there. That Griffin Fire is moving at such a rate and had combined with something called I believe the Champion Fire. And I had listened to the cooperators meeting. There's some information from the cooperators meeting that I'm not sure is public, so I don't want to tell. But in general, they were talking about fire weather, unprecedented odd weather, because we're having fires at an odd time of year. We don't usually, as a Tonto Forest or within Gila County, our fire season is usually over as soon as the monsoons start. And since they haven't started, we're doing fire weather in August, which we're not usually accustomed to. And they have winds that are north winds that are picking up and spreading that fire in fingers like an octopus. And they also talked about air quality. Is an unprecedented conversation about air quality. Those of you that are in Globe know that last night it looked like we had fog. So I just wanted to make sure we're aware of that, and that we have folks on go order. Just happened in our in your email, and answer any questions.
Yes.
Huh?
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that is from the ADOT to the Winters Ranch on the east side of 60.
Yep.
At 9 o'clock, I talked to Scott Cook, who was managing the fire, and he said that the smoke that we were seeing out by the fairground was them back burning, and the fire was doing exactly what he wanted. And now all of a sudden it's doing what they don't want it to do.
I don't know that
Apparently.
specific. This, all I know is that without time for a set notice, residents have been put on go from ADOT to Winters Ranch.
So does that include the fairgrounds where the whole camp for the firefighting department is?
Incident Command won't be moving, and it's defensible space. But yes, the fairgrounds would be included in that area. Incident Command isn't moving, but they're encouraging residents. I just felt like we needed to lead off with that little piece of good news.
Good news?
I know. Isn't that awful? I know that we have communities in San Carlos that have been on set notice. Skill Center along Gilson Wash was put on set notice late last night or early this morning.
Huh.
With that, I'll let James do his update.
Well, I got another question for you.
Okay.
Don't go nowhere.
Okay.
So, the fire that's threatening the Rock House.
That's called the Mellon I knew what it was called earlier today. That's that was a lightning strike on Black Mesa. Is that what
Okay,
it's
it's
called?
on Black Mesa. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, James.
Went to the county manager's meeting on Friday, and a few things that were discussed there. Mr. Harry Papp, who's vice chairman for the PRS Board of Trustees, went through a number of issues, items, things that they have done as a Board of Trustees to try to shore up the PSPRS and those retirement plans that they have, so we can receive some, trying to assure us that what has happened in the unfunded liability we have there, that they're taking measures, doing things so that that doesn't happen again in the future. They're making sure that they're having controls in place. So that's really good news from Mr. Papp and PSPRS. They did, for the first time, roll out a preliminary list of legislative issues that will be discussed in October. There was a total of 22 items. We have actually 7, but we're 6 of them that we were going to look at for Gila County, which include a broadband improvement district, a clerical thing for registered warrants that has troubled the treasurer's office, a recreation district, or something similar for the effort that's being done in Gila, in the southern part of the Cobra Valley, a liquor licensing modification for the same thing that we've had of zoning that can't help out with the where liquor licenses, where liquor facilities are established, an expenditure limit modification, and then an annual newspaper publishing modification. So those are the things that 6 things that we're considering. We're going to have a meeting with Craig Sullivan and his staff tomorrow at 10:30 to discuss the issues and try to put the meat on the bones, taking this to the legislative summit in October. So there is that. I wanted to give an update too on the treasurer's office, where there was in the appropriation of dollars was not accurate. Spoke to Mary and the folks that are working on that yesterday, that we've gotten the code finally from Tyler that we needed to get to be able to track and be able to find out what exactly happened with that. So they were being very reluctant, and Tyler and the software people, to do that, made some calls to the higher up people and finally got some action. So I think we've got all of the data sets that we needed to be able to get an accurate story of how this happened, what happened, and how we can make sure it doesn't happen in the future. And then I spoke to Heinfeld Meach, to a young man that's going through an audit of all those records, and he has to go through every single allocation of tax revenues up to June 30th to ensure that every single tax entity is getting the actual dollars that they need, or that they are supposed to have. The allocation is correct. So that is moving along. It's still, as they in Heinfeld Meach has to look at every single record, it's still a couple months at least down the road before we can find out and be able to go with the taxing districts throughout Gila County to be able to give them an accurate story and make sure that they have gotten every dollar that they are supposed to get. So that had been an issue. We've been working on it since in the last month and making some progress finally, but it's still going to be some more time. And we'll get with, I want to send an update to all the taxing districts of where we're at and what progress we made, and so that they are aware and of that story. And then finally, with the solar settlement, that is the solar deal that is working out, they may come up with an amount that we have to do. It's been said by the assessor that they don't know how much each taxing entity would have to pay back. I think it was about 400 and something thousand for all taxing entities, different amounts. But they have to go again through every single record, every single parcel to find out how much each entity will pay from that. I will bring to you, but I'm going to propose that the county cover that $400,000 at least up front. We get IGAs with the other entities because they do not have any of these dollars budgeted in their budgets. They are not aware of this at all, and want to send some correspondence to them that I will send out to inform them of this settlement with the Department of Revenue and the solar companies, so that we can make sure to move this along, but then to work with the entities that we're not putting them under undue stress for something that they have no knowledge of at this point. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, James.
A lot of good news there.
Well, Tommy, have you got anything for us today?
No, Mr. Chair, I was glad to hear about I like the fire report in particular. I was wondering how that was going. Is there anything on Tim's side of the mountain that I need to hear about from a fire report standpoint? Is there any new fires, or have they come back around on us? Are there more washes and roads that we're going to have to consider? Any of that jazz. So I'm just going to wait and see what Tim has to say, if there's anything there that needs said. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tommy. Tim?
Well, if we're talking fires, first I'd like to thank Michael O'Driscoll for all of the work that he's doing with the fires and the COVID and everything, because they're about ready to burn me out of house and home. 60's was closed. 188 was closed. Yeah, there's lots of fire right now. They just evacuated the fairgrounds. I've got horses out there, so I'm wondering how close that fire is as I'm sitting here in the meeting on go. So, yeah, Tommy, there's a lot of fire, and maybe we won't have a Southern fire meeting this year because there's nothing to burn because it's all burned up. I don't know. It just seems to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And, you know, one fire starts here and grows to another fire that grows to another fire. And it's just amazing the amount of things that are burning down here right now. But other than that, I tried to go from Roosevelt to Globe at one point in time, and they told me the road was closed, that we couldn't. So how can you be on a ready, set, or a set or go mode with a road closed with a 2-hour commute for a 20-minute drive? So I got real frustrated, and I talked to Kelly Jourdain and about the fire meeting that, okay, why can't we have a pilot car? I mean, if they need the whole road and the road's burning up, I can see not having traffic. But if they just want the whole road to fight fire, well, that's kind of being inconsiderate. So they set up a pilot car for a couple runs for 188 until they had to close 260, and then they lost manpower. But they did end up putting a pilot car on 60, so maybe that's something going forward where we've covered a little ground that maybe once Forest Service moves in, I understand that they have to fight the fires, but maybe they can be a little considerate of us and at least use pilot cars on roads where people have to travel. And other than that, that's about all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Tim, that's a good idea and such a good suggestion. Just to be prepared, be as prepared for a pilot car setup as you are for closing the road completely. It's crazy to make some of us, go from pacing around through Camp Verde to get to Globe, as it is for you to have to go make that same round to get to Globe. It just, we haven't thought that out well enough, and I'm with you. We may do enough burn this year that we don't have anything else to burn, but that certainly is an element we need to talk about in these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just got news from Mr. Sanders that the 60 from right here in town all the way up to Civic U-turnoff has been closed. There's no pilot cars or anything going through at this point.
So how are you going to
If I
evacuate?
may, I'm going to go evacuate for horses, and I can't get to them.
I'll bet you'll get to them. Yeah.
Yeah, 60's been closed again.
All the way from the junction here, huh, Steve?
Yeah, that is got an alert from ADOT, and that's what it said.
Is that what you was going to tell us?
Part of it. So they are letting folks who are trying to get out. And also, Mike Johnson said that if there is any media interest, they're probably going to set up some kind of a media out here at what we call Four Amigos, should there be any media interest. So just so you know, if you see activity going on over there, it's Sheriff's Office coordinating some kind of press release.
I'll take my shirt off before I leave this building then. Okay. Well, there's lots of fires. There's lots of things happening. Thank God, knock on wood, we haven't had anything major happen with anybody or anything yet. So let's hope that continues to be the case. And other than that, I do not have anything for an update. Other than everybody be careful, be safe, and hopefully it'll rain this afternoon. So with that, I'll close the meeting. Thank you.